Welcome to Mr. Horror. Today, we'll be delving into the chilling world of hospitals with 3 true scary stories that will send shivers down your spine. Get ready to witness some of the most terrifying and unexplainable events that have occurred in hospitals. Are you ready to hear about the horrors that lurk within these walls? Let's begin. As a nurse in a busy city hospital, I thought I had seen it all. But one night, I witnessed something that made me question everything I thought I knew about the world. It was a slow night, and most of the patients were sleeping. I was doing my rounds, checking on the rooms when I saw her. A young girl, no more than 10 years old, standing in the hallway. She was wearing a hospital gown, and her feet were bare. At first, I thought she was lost, but when I approached her, she vanished into thin air. I rubbed my eyes, thinking I was seeing things, but when I opened them again, she was still there. I tried to brush it off as exhaustion or a trick of the light, but the memory of the little girl haunted me for weeks. A few months later, I had an experience that left me shaken to my core. I was working the night shift again, and things were quiet until I heard strange noises coming from one of the patients' rooms. When I opened the door, I was hit with a wave of cold air, and I saw a figure standing at the foot of the bed. It was a man, but there was something off about him. His skin was pale and cold, and his eyes were completely black. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't move. The figure turned towards me, and I felt like he was staring right through me. I finally managed to run out of the room and call security, but when they arrived, there was no sign of the man. My final experience at the hospital was the most terrifying of them all. It was a busy night, and I was rushing to attend to a patient in the ICU when I heard footsteps behind me. I turned around, expecting to see a colleague, but instead I saw a woman in a white gown. She had long, dark hair, and her face was twisted in a grotesque expression of pain. I froze, unsure of what to do, and watched in horror as the woman walked through a wall and disappeared. I was too afraid to tell anyone, convinced they would think I was crazy. After that night, I knew I couldn't work at the hospital any longer. The strange occurrences had become too much for me to handle, and I left the job soon after. To this day, I still can't explain what happened, but I know that those experiences have stayed with me forever. I was working the night shift at a small hospital in a remote area. It was a slow night, and I was the only nurse on duty. As I made my rounds, I noticed a new patient in one of the rooms. He was an older man, and he seemed to be in a lot of pain. I went into the room to check on him, but as soon as I got close to his bed, I felt a cold chill run down my spine. The man was staring at me with blank, lifeless eyes, and his breathing was slow and shallow. I tried to speak to him, but he didn't respond. I quickly checked his vitals and made sure he was comfortable before leaving the room. But as I walked away, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off about the man. On my second night shift at the hospital, things took a turn for the worse. I was checking on the patients when I noticed that the door to the morgue was open. I knew I had locked it earlier, and I couldn't imagine who could have opened it. I cautiously approached the door, but as I got closer, I heard strange noises coming from inside. It sounded like someone was dragging their feet along the floor. I hesitated for a moment before finally mustering up the courage to open the door. What I saw inside will haunt me forever. One of the bodies had been moved, and its eyes were open, staring directly at me. But that wasn't the worst part. The body was cold to the touch, but it was still moving. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, but I knew I had to act fast. I called the doctor on call and told them what had happened. But when they arrived, the body had stopped moving, and everything appeared normal. I thought things couldn't get any worse, but I was wrong. On my third night shift at the hospital, I witnessed something that made me question my sanity. I was doing my rounds when I heard strange noises coming from one of the empty rooms. It sounded like someone was whispering, but I couldn't make out what they were saying. As I got closer, the whispers grew louder and more urgent. When I finally got to the room, I was shocked to see a woman in a hospital gown standing in the middle of the room. She was swaying back and forth, muttering to herself incoherently. But what really scared me was her eyes. They were completely black, and they seemed to be staring right through me. I tried to talk to her, but she didn't respond. I called for backup, but when the other nurses arrived, the woman was gone. There was no sign of her and no explanation for what had happened. To this day, I still have nightmares about that night shift at the hospital. I don't know what I saw, but I know that it wasn't human. I had just started my new job as a night nurse at a local hospital. It was my first week, and I was excited to be working in such a prestigious institution. However, my excitement turned to fear when I was assigned to the ward for patients with mental health disorders. On my first night shift, I was making my rounds when I heard strange noises coming from one of the patients' rooms. I peeked inside and saw a patient sitting on the bed, rocking back and forth and muttering to themselves. I tried to reassure them that everything was okay, but they just kept rocking and muttering. As I continued my rounds, I heard more strange noises coming from the other patients' rooms. Some were shouting, others were crying, and some were even laughing maniacally. It was like something out of a horror movie, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. My second night shift at the hospital was even worse. I was taking a break in the break room when I heard a blood-curdling scream coming from one of the patients' rooms. I rushed to the room and found a patient thrashing around, their eyes wide with terror. I tried to calm them down, but they just kept screaming and thrashing. It was as if they were seeing something that wasn't there. I checked their vitals and administered a sedative, but it took a while before they finally calmed down. As the night wore on, I heard more screams and cries coming from the other patients' rooms. It was like something was haunting the ward, and I was powerless to stop it. On my third night shift at the hospital, things took a turn for the bizarre. I was making my rounds when I saw something that I still can't explain. One of the patients' rooms was empty, or so I thought. As I was about to leave, I saw movement out of the corner of my eye. I turned to look and saw a figure standing in the corner of the room. It was tall and thin, with long arms and legs. Its skin was pale and looked like it was stretched tight over its bones. Its eyes were sunken and empty, and it had a wide, toothy grin on its face. I froze, unsure of what to do. The figure just stood there, grinning at me. I tried to back away, but my feet wouldn't move. It was like I was rooted to the spot. Eventually, the figure disappeared, and I was left alone in the room. I ran out of the ward and told the other nurses what I had seen, but they just looked at me like I was crazy. To this day, I still can't explain what I saw that night. But I know one thing for sure, I'll never work the night shift at that hospital again. Thank you for watching these terrifying true hospital horror stories. I hope they sent shivers down your spine and kept you on the edge of your seat. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more bone-chilling content. Don't forget to hit that notification bell to be notified of our latest uploads. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you in the next one.